What's up, UTU Trust Guardians? Welcome to another episode of the UTU Trust Guardian interview series. Here's where we chat with team members, investors, partners, and supporters of UTU to learn more about their backgrounds and what they're building, why they believe in UTU, and how they're helping to increase trust across the entire internet. Today, we are speaking with another one of our UTU partners. We're here with Irfan Khan, founder of Hypermine, the makers of Hypersign, which is a decentralized ID and access management infrastructure that leverages blockchain to provide passwordless authentication, as well as authorization and verification services, which integrate within minutes and is compatible with legacy systems. We partnered with the Hypermine team back in March. So we brought Irfan onto the show to tell us about his background, dig a little bit deeper into what Hypersign is and how we'll work together and more. So Irfan, welcome. How are things going?
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me on here. It's always a pleasure to always talk and connect with the UTU team. And yeah, I'm really thankful and appreciate you having me on board.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can't wait to dig into what you've been working on. So before we do that, let's start by learning more about your background, both on a personal and professional level.
Yeah, sure. So I've spent about probably more than 10 years in this space. I come from the identity space, and
Okay.
I've been working for companies like Thales Gemalto. They're basically one of the leaders in digital identity. I've been working on, I mean, you can say it's like a subsect of cybersecurity. I mean, cybersecurity is like this huge umbrella of various services.
Yep.
But when you drill down and you talk about identity, you're essentially talking about things like encryption systems, digital signatures, certificate authorities, that sort of thing. And I've personally always been very interested in this space. That if you think about identity in its truest sense, right? How would you how do you what is identity, right? It's essentially dealing with trying to prove to somebody else who you are. How do you do that, right? And if you think about it, it's been like probably hundreds and thousands of years since people have been trying to prove themselves, right? So if you take a look at all from hundreds and 200,000 years ago, they have found shells and different embossing and markings on stone and various other metals that tribes would basically use to prove themselves that I belong to that space and time, right? And if you like move over time, you'd have things like tattoos, which was basically a rite of passage to prove that you were of a certain age and you belong to a certain tribe. And you have tattoos that are all the way from Samoa to the Arctic circles, right? So it doesn't matter. So you have a fundamental human right. I mean, it's a fundamental human right about how you are actually going to prove to someone that you are that person. And now, of course, in the digital space, it's been, you could say, easier because you have all these governments telling you who you are, which in my opinion is not really who I am if the government tells me that. But what's made it more interesting now, and which is why I jumped onto the blockchain bandwagon, is because now you have a world where there are no centralized authority telling me that I am this person. You know what I mean? To be quite honest, on my passport, they kind of screwed up my date of birth and my name and my father's name.
Oh,
so
gosh.
who does that make me? Does that make me somebody else? You know what I mean? It's not, right? So that's my point, right? I mean, so how do you go about ensuring that that things that prove who you are actually do belong to you? I mean, if I saw your car parked outside a bar, that's your identity, right? I know it's you. I know it's Mike. He's sitting in that bar, or he's probably in the vicinity because his car is here, right?
Yeah.
So those are the sort of things that we look at. And what we are essentially trying to do with the Hypersign protocol is not only depend on government issued documents for identity, but also sort of use all sorts of identity parameters. So maybe your Telegram, maybe your Twitter account, maybe your Facebook account, all sorts of social standing, whether it's a bank, whether it's a hospital, whoever is verifying you, we want to consolidate all those credentials onto one place. And how we envision this is that, today, if you take a look at identity in its truest sense, you have third-party entities, whether it's Google, whether it's a bank, whether it's a hospital, they're issuing you with this identity, and you are then using this identity in a third-party space that is being used by somebody else, and they're using, abusing, sharing with others. So you have a third party giving you some information, and then you are giving that information to someone else, and they're doing whatever the hell they want with it. So where do you stand in all this? Where is your control in this? You know, I mean, it's my identity, it's my information, it's my name. Someone else is equipping me with that, and then I have to give it to a third person, and even they're abusing it. So come on, you know, that doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
So how we approach this is that the way we've built the Hypersign network is you come and register once with us. Your personal information is encrypted with your private key. It remains with you, so no one else has access to it. And every time someone wants to access your personal information, they basically have to get your permission. And so they get your they get your approval and say, guys, I wanna. So let's just say you've ordered something from Amazon or whatever your local e-commerce platform is, your preferred one, and every time they want to deliver you a box, I personally don't feel it's right that they have to store that personal information with them all the time, right? So how we address that is that they should come and ask you for your permission that, hey, Mike, I got a package for you today, man. Where can I drop it off?
Right.
And you'd probably expose that information to them for a limited period of time, saying, today I'm available at this space from this time to this time, you can drop it off here. I mean, of course, it's not that easy. It's, there are logistical issues involved on the e-commerce side, and I mean there are ways to combat this, but we want to move to a more, and I know that UTU understands this really well. That we want to move to a consent-based.
That's right.
Consent-based data aggregation model, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we are. That's where we're headed. And that's about.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, I think some of the things that you talked about, just the fragmentation of your quote unquote identity across these third-party companies that. You know, one, just it's not a comprehensive view of who you really are, right? And it's very difficult to achieve that in the traditional sense. And also, like you said, just these companies just using your data without, which in general, I think most people are okay with that, but without you getting anything, having no control over it or getting anything for it, right?
Exactly. And my hope, and that's what our objective is, right? To go ahead and create this data market. We want to create an NFT-based data market where we don't want to disrupt. We understand how important this user data is, but how we position is that once you've registered with us, you can actually check boxes that I'm male, I live in this city, I like running, and I eat pizza. And then we take that information, we go to Domino's or we go to Pizza Hut or whatever, we go to Reebok, and we like, this is a guy likes running in the city, likes eating pizza, and you can send the marketing messages without knowing who you are. And that's all based on decentralized identifier technology, right?
Yeah.
So you can still receive those marketing informations and get paid for it without revealing your personal information.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So that that's cool. We kind of went over the philosophy about Hypersign. So yeah, talk a little bit about exactly the technology itself. Where have you implemented the technology, and like also you have the HID token. How does that work in the whole ecosystem of Hypersign?
I mean, okay, sure, yeah. So there are multiple use cases as to how Hypersign can be used. So of course, because the fundamental underlying technology is basically built on public key encryption. So you have the whole concept of public and private keys. We're also incorporating digital signatures to be able to create verified blockchain verified credentials that are issued to you that cannot be tampered with, right? And I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Oh, because there's the HID token. How does that work?
So basically, how it would typically work is that sorry, my ADD is acting up. So so what we typically would do is the token, of course, I mean, would work like any other token in the sense that you would use it to avail services on the Hypersign network. We're still a bit far away from that. I mean, in the sense that we just launched our token. We just completed our first round of fundraising, and
Congratulations.
we're building that. Yeah, thanks. That was crazy, but we're getting to that part. But what we have built so far is essentially a decentralized authentication mechanism. So if you take a look at how authentication and the login process is happening today, is basically off these huge, large databases, right? And when you talk to engineering teams, they'll always tell you that we are creating applications or we're creating websites, and we're going to have this huge database where people are going to come and register. But the fact of the matter is that what they don't pay attention to is data protection and strong authentication right from the get-go. And what typically happens is that the moment the website goes live or the application goes live, you have all these users coming, registering, and over a period of time, it sort of exponentially grows and becomes into this honeypot and gets hacked, right? And when you do so we want to solve that problem. We want to eliminate the concept of data silos, of personal data silos. We're not touching transactional data. I know how important that is to you guys, so we don't touch that. But it's the personal data that we're concerned about. And we want to start solving this problem by eliminating the need for one username and passwords and replacing that with public key encryption. So you have public, by eliminating these silos of data that just store usernames, passwords, addresses, phone numbers, photographs, and they're just sitting there for like decades on end. And once you have given that information over to that company, you can't go to them and say, hey man, give it back. That concept doesn't exist, right? So so our technology is basically being used to completely redesign the login mechanism, simplify it, secure it. And we're also using the same protocol right now to do a social verification. So there's a lot of whitelisting requirements, for lack of a better term, sorry, for whitelisting requirements on, especially in the blockchain space. So you have all these IDOs happening, and all these guys need to verify the users and to ensure that they don't have all these bots filling out these forms when they launch the token and so on. So we're using the same protocol for that. And I'm hoping before the end of the year, if we have the time to basically get into it, but it's very high priority for us that we want to integrate the HID token utility into this system, where you'd have people holding our token, holding the HID token, and basically plugging it in into like a vending machine, if you'd like, just to avail services.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So, you mentioned the whitelisting product. Talk about I think you're cranking on some new products, that being one of them. So tell us a little bit more about the development of those, and what are some of those other products that you're working on.
Yeah, sure. So if you think about, I'll give you how we a peek of how we address the world, right? How we look at the world, right? If you take a look at identity in that sense, or in the digital identity space, you need identity for everything, right? Yep. So whether it's buying an airline ticket, or logging into your email, or logging into your computer, it all requires some form of your digital identity, right? Yep. So if you're buying a ticket, maybe you need to give some of your passport information. Maybe if you're buying a health insurance, maybe you need to give some of your health information, whatever, right? So how we're basically looking at this is that identity is the focal point of all, whether it's payment, whether it's healthcare, whether it's travel, insurance, whatever. Identity sits at the core of it, right? So what we are trying to do is essentially address problems that are related to this identity-based issue. So looking at e-commerce, how e-commerce stores all your personal information, which they don't need to. Healthcare, they can store your information, but not everyone should have access to it. So for instance, if you take a look at identity in healthcare, you'd want your doctor to be able to access your blood type. You want a specific doctor to access your blood type, but not your bone marrow composition. Sure. I don't know, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the kind of nuance that we're looking at, that data is contextual. Not all data should be available to everyone all the time. Of course. And to be able to, so we are basically, so we have built products on payment. Okay, I'm going to be clear, they're not really products, but they're prototypes. They're around payment, healthcare, the NFT data markets, So basically everything that revolves around identity and services that go on top of that. So that's how we look at the world.
Yeah, how have you been prioritizing that, right? Because like you mentioned, your identity is such an integral part to access all kinds of different services and share different types of data. And I can imagine in your backlog, there's just I mean it's very
Yeah,
similar
that's
to
crazy.
trust, right? It's like
Yeah,
trust is everywhere, identity is
yeah,
everywhere. That's why this is such a nice partnership that we worked on, which we'll
yeah.
dig into a little bit later. But like, how do you go about just thinking like this is where we work on what this is what we work on first, this is what we work on next, this is more important, what's kind of going, what's the thought process around that?
Yeah, I mean, that's been
Hard, right? It's
ad
not
hoc.
easy.
Yeah, it's been ad hoc AF, like, you know what I mean? And what I guess really drives us is we pay a lot of attention to what potential customers are telling us. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
And um, although we spend a lot of time and money, I mean, we've been building this thing since 2017, 2018. And I can tell you that we've spoken to so many customers who haven't bought anything. But I still
You got
want to
good
thank them.
opinions though, right?
Yeah, I want to thank them. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey man, like, thank you for giving me this bit of information, because that was an integral part of the puzzle that I know now what the healthcare
Of course.
industry needs. I know now what the supply chain management industry needs. I know
Yeah.
now what the payment and finance and DeFi, all these sectors they need. They didn't buy from us, fine, maybe we're too small or whatever, but
Eventually.
yeah, for now, right?
Nice.
So the whole reason that we built all of these prototypes and protocols and POCs is basically based on what the customers required, and obviously in the hope of selling, which we did. We failed miserably so far,
We'll get
but
there.
yeah, we get there, of course. But the fact of the matter is that the customers or the potential customers who they basically guided us over the last 3 or 4 years through all these prototypes, and they basically laid out the problem statement for us to be able to leverage this technology in that context to be able to build these products out. So
Awesome.
yeah, I just want to say thank you to all those customers who didn't buy from us. You know what I mean?
Awesome. So yeah, segueing into that. So what are you going to be focusing on now? What's on your roadmap for the next few months?
Yeah. So right now, I mean, we're trying to get back to grassroots level. We want to focus on basically our authentication and login solutions for enterprise customers. We're really hammering away on that. We've built out more enterprise grade features, talking to like centralized exchanges, giving them a guilt trip saying, hey guys, you guys are working with decentralized finance, but not leveraging any other decentralization in your
Right.
product. So at least have, like,
Yeah.
decentralized authentication. So yeah, that's priority for us. And for mainly for the blockchain space and for the crypto space, for all the new projects coming out, where we've officially launched our social KYC product, where you can verify users without having to look at their jurisdictional documents, just verifying them through their social media, through their Telegram chat programs, and ensuring that the bots are out and all the fake profiles are out, and just keeping it real for all the projects who are working so hard to launch their token, and
Yeah.
they just they just get
Big problem.
overcrowded. Yeah, you know what I mean? And they just get overcrowded by these guys who have money in tech and bots, and
Yeah.
just come and fill out those Google forms in the multitude. And so trying to solve that problem, and I think that's going well. We signed up a couple of launch pads, and
Great.
yeah, we're trying to get some more projects on board. So yeah, that's the focus.
Awesome. So yeah, talk a little. We alluded to a bit on our shared values and how we our philosophies, I think, a lot alike. So you talk a little bit of the partnership with UTU and how we'll work together.
Yeah, I mean, I've always ever since I knew what O2 was doing, when the moment I understood it, it just made so much sense to me, right? Because you guys are working on this probabilistic machine learning algorithm based transactional data analysis, where you're able to actually translate who's, well, not who, but how many times, what is being bought by when. And it's so important, right, to understand that a product or a service is being used and how it's being used and the frequency of how it's being used, without actually, tapping into the personal information space, right? I mean, it's so important to analyze that data and create that layer of trust, which you guys are doing. And it's basically a uniform sort of rule that can be used across any industry, right? It's timeless, right? It's timeless, right? And whether it's, like you rightly said, whether it's finance, traditional finance, whether it's DeFi, whether it's buying a car, whether it's buying a phone, whether it's buying a house, you want to know who's buying what in which area and for how much. And it just makes your buying patterns, your selling patterns, your awareness, your consciousness a lot more, just makes you a smarter person every day, right? That you know that when you shouldn't be buying something, when you see certain indicators that are going down. We're looking for these things every day in our life, right? Whether subconsciously or or consciously or subconsciously. But when you're buying a house, you want to make sure you're getting the best deal, you're getting the best bang for your buck, that the area is good, that their neighbors are cool, that so you're looking at all this contextual information. And it takes up a lot of time and effort, right? Even if it's buying a car or buying a house, you know how it is, right? But if you have something like an algorithm that is doing that dirty work for you, why not?
Yeah.
It just saves you so much time, and you have the score now. So instead of actually going and doing all your homework, the O2 is doing that for you, right? You just load up the screen and it's got all these scores there. I'm like, hey man, thank you. You know what I mean? I don't need to do my work anymore. And you have that sitting on top of Hypersign, which is a deterministic sort of approach, where we're ensuring that the users are who they really are. And when you combine those two, you end up with an extremely powerful solution that is not only ensuring that the users are legitimate, but you're also ensuring that the frequency of the use, the pattern of how it's being used, and the area of how it's being used, and just bring that together, you have this whole clean picture of how the whole thing works. And I think in about a year's time, when we're more mature and we're probably working together to bring out services collectively, it's radically going to change how people do business, how people work and live and play and just live their life on a daily basis.
Yeah, I couldn't have said better myself. I think there's definitely similar philosophies on how we see the world, but we're attacking two different layers of it, right? Like you're attacking that core ID layer that aggregates all that info about someone that identifies that person. Now we're attacking on top what is this person, what's their what are some of the trustworthy things that they've done? How much can you how can you trust them, and in order to facilitate those transactions. And on the flip side too, users are able to see how trustworthy other entities are, whether it's a certain platform or I mean, I'll tell you right now, I went to book a VRBO for a trip for me and my buddies, and for just like an Airbnb, and the company just absolutely canceled on me.
It was like last minute, huh? They just
right. So last minute, like a day before we're supposed to go, the company just canceled on me, right? So now I know that I'm not gonna work with that company again if I see them listening.
But how do you get that word out?
Right. That's exactly.
How do you get the word
exactly
out? Yeah.
Right. That's exactly it. Right now. Yeah. So that's why now.
Man, you know what? You guys, you UTU should be making a trust code for politicians, man. That's what you should be working on. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
Real-time updates of all the bullshit. You know what I mean?
and their stock deals and everything now.
Hey, you live in DC too, man. Hey, there you go, man. That's a use case for you.
That is such a messy, especially it's so close.
You're gonna get shot, my man. You're gonna get shot in DC. That's what's gonna happen to you.
But yeah, so yeah, they would kick me out of my town. But yeah, so that's why I think this partnership was so nice. And like I said, we're I think decentralized ID is going to be big. Obviously, obviously trust is going to be is huge, and you know, what we're working on is you know, that's why I've dedicated my career to this. So yeah, I think just the ability to work together and attack those different layers of trust and ID is going to be
And
huge.
while preserving user data, you know what I mean? This is the most important point.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, building this whole consent-based, it's user data aggregation is so important for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we've just been so conditioned to be okay with, I don't know why we're okay with it, but like just okay with big tech using our data.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's the problem. So see, this is the challenge I face on a daily basis, that the problem we are trying to solve is not really perceived as a problem by the masses. It's not a problem.
Until it becomes a problem, actually.
Until it becomes a problem. And then I'm like, hey, man, you know, and it's always like, oh, this data hack happened, that data hack happened, this data leak happened. Okay, it happened to somebody else, it happened in a company. I'm like, but hey, man, it's our information, it's our personal information. It may not be you today, but maybe it's your cousins or it's your family or your wife or your brother or whatever, like, you know, and it's going to be you next. Yeah. It's going to be you next. So how long is that going to carry on?
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. We could talk all day about this stuff.
Yeah, we could talk all day about it.
And you know, I love what you guys are working on. So kudos on the token sale and all the progress. And I know those customers will eventually pay. We'll
they're gonna pay. All right.
So all right. So let's move on to the quick fire questions. So this is where I ask you 3 questions real quick in succession to learn more.
Oh my God. Okay. Here we go. All right. Let's do this.
It's pressure time right now.
Okay. Pressure time. Let's do it.
All right. So tell us something unique and interesting about you that not many people may know.
Ooh. Okay. I want to say something that doesn't get me in too much trouble. So I run a record label. I produce electronic music, and I've been organizing electronic music festivals since 2012. Which I mean, of course, they stopped now thanks to COVID. But we'd be organizing music festivals in South India since 2012. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I don't think a lot of people know about that.
You got a SoundCloud?
I got a SoundCloud, yeah. I got an old SoundCloud, man.
Sweet. We'll post a link to it in the video notes.
Yeah,
very cool.
For sure.
That's good. Great one.
Yeah.
If you could chat with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Tesla, man. Tesla. Nikola Tesla.
Why?
He controlled electricity somehow, man. He understood the way. I mean, you know, you talk about all this tech and all this engineering marvel, but none of this would be possible with electricity, right?
Yeah.
None of it.
Absolutely.
And to be able to perceive and understand and design and create and comprehend and still be crippled in self-doubt hundreds of years ago, that guy was way ahead of his time. Like, you know what I mean? He was way ahead of his time. And to be able to harness that kind of elementary energy, I think is remarkable. And I don't think we're going to ever have someone like him. We have this loser Elon Musk, who I've completely lost all respect for now. No, thank you.
I don't know what's going on there.
Okay, he's trying, but I'm sorry, not even close. But yeah, I think it'll be Nikola Tesla. Yeah.
Good one. All right, last one. What is something that you believe but few others agree with?
Oh my God.
So this one sometimes gets people in trouble, but we want to hear everything.
That probably, the way I look at it, shamans and physicists speak the same language.
Okay. Unpack that piece of luggage right there.
So if you take a look at what shamans talk about, right? I mean, they're all talking about parallel universes and alternative realities, right? And what are physicists talking about? They're talking about the same thing, right? I mean, they're all talking about this universe of that multiverse and so on, right? But they're just speaking a different language. I mean, they're both expressing the same thing. And I get a lot of flack for it because they're like, hey man, all that shaman shit is crap, you know what I mean? But it's not. If you take a look at it, they're all talking about the same thing. And I honestly believe that if you were, these guys, the physicists are talking about the same thing and imagining the same thing, but those guys they don't probably speak the same language, in the sense they won't be able to explain to each other. But
Right.
from a subconscious level, they're both thinking about the same thing. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've never made that link.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All
Yeah.
right, super cool, Irfan. Hey, that was super fun. I love getting into just our shared philosophies, and I think that's why this partnership made so much
Yeah, I
sense.
mean, it's always fun to talk to like minds. I mean, you guys just get it, and it's always nice to talk to people who just get it. I enjoy it.
I appreciate that. So tell the UTU community where they can learn more about yourself and Hypermine, Hypersign.
Yeah, sure. Log on to hypersign.id. That's hypersign.id. Please follow us on Twitter. That's Hypersign Chain. And Telegram, if you guys are on it. Again, Hypersign Chain. Yeah, I mean, drop us a line, contact Mike, and get my number if you need to. Yeah, I mean, let's talk. Let's talk.
Yeah, we'll throw some links into the video
Yeah,
description.
and then please say hi to Jason also for me.
We'll do. I'm sure he'll enjoy this one, because
okay, awesome.
this is a fun one. So all right, UTU Trust Guardians, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Irfan. Please hit that like button if you did. There'll definitely be more interviews to come, so make sure you hit the subscribe and notification button so you don't miss them. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Irfan, thanks so much, man. That was an awesome time.
Thank you, Mike. Take care. Have a good evening. Bye.